Stark Raving Dad, one of the most famous early episodes of The Simpsons. Stark Raving Dad features Homer being mistakenly sent to a mental institution, where he meets a gentle, soft-spoken man who claims to be Michael Jackson. The twist? He actually was voiced by Jackson, though under the pseudonym John J. Smith. The episode became a fan favorite, blending pop culture with emotional moments, especially the song Happy Birthday Lisa, which many viewers still remember today. But in 2019, decades after its original airing, Stark Raving Dad was completely pulled from circulation. This followed the release of the HBO documentary Leaving Neverland, which detailed allegations of child sexual abuse against Jackson. Producers, including James L. Brooks and Al Jean, made the rare decision to remove the episode from Disney+, future syndication, and even box set releases. Gene later said he believed Jackson used the show to manipulate public perception, calling the episode part of his grooming strategy. Once a beloved part of Simpsons history, it's now one of the few episodes the creators chose to erase entirely. Cape Fear. A parody of the thriller Cape Fear, this episode marks one of Sideshow Bob's most iconic appearances, and one of the darkest. After being released from prison, Bob follows the Simpsons on a houseboat, planning to kill Bart once and for all. But one scene in particular led to trouble overseas. Bob is shown impersonating a Nazi officer, complete with an Obergruppenführer uniform, while terrifying his nephew in a dream sequence. Because of Germany's strict laws against Nazi imagery, even in satire, the episode was banned or heavily edited in the country. German broadcasters either skipped the episode or cut out all offending references, including the Nazi uniform and dialogue. While Cape Fear remains a classic in most countries, in Germany it serves as an example of how even comedy must comply with historical sensitivities. The City of New York versus Homer Simpson. This episode brought The Simpsons to New York, with Homer forced to retrieve his car parked between the Twin Towers. The episode is filled with now-haunting imagery of the World Trade Center, including jokes about Tower 1 being the P Tower and extended scenes set in the building's shadows. After the September 11th attacks in 2001, the episode was quietly removed from syndication in the US and many other countries. Some networks resumed airing it years later, often with cuts or blurred imagery. While it's available on DVD and streaming in many regions today, it remains one of the few episodes pulled for reasons tied to real-world tragedy. A reminder of how quickly satire can shift in tone after disaster strikes. The Cartridge Family. When Springfield descends into chaos after a soccer riot, Homer decides the only way to protect his family is to buy a gun. What follows is a sharp satire on American gun culture, with Homer waving a pistol around the house, shooting at light switches, and hiding it under his pillow like a toy. The episode makes no attempt to soften the absurdity of firearm obsession. In the UK, this was considered too controversial for TV. Broadcasters like Sky One pulled the episode entirely or removed specific scenes, particularly the one where Maggie ends up holding the gun. It eventually returned to UK television in edited form and was released on home video, but the initial backlash showed just how differently American and European audiences viewed gun humor. 30 Minutes Over Tokyo. In this globe-trotting episode, The Simpsons win a trip to Japan and quickly offend just about every cultural norm, from jokes about Hello Kitty factories to sumo wrestling matches that land them in prison. The episode throws out exaggerated caricatures at lightning speed. There's even a scene with a seizure-inducing game called Battling Seizure Robots, a parody of the infamous Pokemon seizure incident in real life. Japan did not take it lightly. The episode was banned from airing in the country entirely due to its offensive depictions of Japanese customs, landmarks, and pop culture. It remains unaired there to this day, though it did air uncut in South Korea. While meant to be lighthearted satire, Its tone missed the mark for Japanese audiences, making it one of the rare Simpsons episodes to be banned for pure cultural offense. Little Big Mom. In this episode, Marge injures herself and Lisa is left in charge of the house. When Bart and Homer refuse to help, she tricks them into thinking they have leprosy, leading to scenes of them being quarantined and shunned by society. The subplot plays leprosy for laughs, using it as a vehicle for exaggerated slapstick isolation. But in Japan, where the topic of leprosy carries deep historical trauma due to decades of institutionalized segregation, the episode was considered offensive. Japanese broadcasters banned the episode outright, and it's still not aired there. What was a throwaway plot in the US struck a nerve in a country still grappling with the legacy of how leprosy patients were treated. Day of the Jackanapes. Sideshow Bob returns with a new plan to kill Krusty the Clown, this time by hypnotizing Bart into becoming a suicide bomber. The episode shows Bart unknowingly rigged with explosives and sent to detonate them on live TV. It's played for dark comedy, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Originally aired in 2001, the episode was pulled from UK TV shortly afterward due to increased sensitivity surrounding terrorism and suicide attacks. The concept of a child being brainwashed into becoming a suicide bomber crossed the line for many broadcasters. It was eventually reinstated in 2004, but not without controversy. Blame It on Lisa. The Simpsons travel to Rio de Janeiro in this episode, but instead of a tropical paradise, they find crime, kidnappings, rats, and chaos. Lisa gets mugged, Homer is abducted by a taxi driver, and monkeys attack people in the streets. The jokes were meant to be absurd, but they painted an extremely negative and false picture of the city. Brazilian officials and tourism groups were outraged. The episode was pulled from Brazilian television, and 20th Century Fox received threats of legal action. It wasn't until 2012 that the episode quietly returned to air, uncut, but the backlash left a lasting scar. It remains one of the few episodes that caused real diplomatic outrage. Weekend at Burnsies. After being attacked by crows, Homer is prescribed medicinal marijuana. The drug use transforms him into a laid-back, mellow version of himself, and the episode spends a lot of time satirizing anti-drug campaigns and legalization debates. While not outright promoting weed, the tone is undeniably relaxed. In the UK, broadcasters weren't having it. The episode was initially banned from airing due to concerns it normalized drug use, especially for younger viewers. It was later aired with edits and warnings, and eventually released uncut on DVD. Goo Goo Gai Pan. When Selma decides to adopt a baby from China, the family travels overseas and instantly runs afoul of Chinese authorities. The episode mocks censorship, the one-child policy, and even recreates the infamous Tiananmen Square Tank Man scene with Homer standing in front of a line of tanks. Needless to say, the Chinese government was not amused. The episode was banned in mainland China and later removed from Disney Plus in Hong Kong during heightened political tensions. Its satire of authoritarian regimes and historical erasure hit too close to home for China's tightly controlled media environment. The Simpsons movie. Most countries embraced the Simpsons movie, but Myanmar banned it outright, not because of its jokes, but because of its color scheme. The film prominently features the colors yellow and red, which happen to match the flags and symbols of political opposition groups in Myanmar. Authorities viewed it as politically charged, even though the connection was purely coincidental. As a result, the movie was blocked from theaters and never given an official release in the country. It's one of the strangest bans in Simpsons history, based not on content or messaging, but on perceived visual symbolism. E pluribus Wiggum. When Springfield's primary election is moved up, chaos ensues, and Ralph Wiggum ends up as the front-running presidential candidate. The episode is a direct jab at the American political system, mocking primary rules, media hype, and the absurdity of popularity contests in politics. While never officially banned, the episode was reportedly pulled or skipped in some regions during election cycles due to its satire of political campaigns. It was considered too pointed by some broadcasters, especially during real-world controversies. Though it flies under the radar, it remains one of the show's sharpest and most quietly censored episodes.